On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 2008. We're going to be taking a look at Jeff Beck, and he's going to be performing Brush with the Blues. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, unfortunately, this is one of those that has been blocked worldwide on copyrights, so you guys know the drill by now. I'm going to put the link to the performance video in the description below. I'll also pin it to the top of the comment section, so you guys can click on that link, watch the performance, click on the back button, and come back here for the analysis, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. The absolute master of dynamics is Jeff Beck. Listen to the way that we start the track and where we're at now. Of course, it gets to the point where you don't want to interrupt it, and the link's going to be in the description below so you guys can check out the whole video from start to finish without me interrupting it. But the journey, just dynamically, let alone what Jeff actually lays down on the fretboard and all the techniques that he throws together, and just the way that Jeff gets notes to pop out when he wants them to. Great example right at the beginning of the track, because we've got a great little line together, but there's obviously one note that really does stand out compared to the rest. And again, just using his thumb here, so he's got such control, and you get that really cool soft sound with the thumb, and that is a Jeff Beck trademark, that soft sound. But then also, when he then wants to go to that louder place, like we are here, really raising the dynamics and opening up the playing, then he starts to put a little bit more effort with those downstrokes. Occasionally as well, will go to the nail of his first finger. It's subtle, but it's definitely in there if you look out for it, which will give that more aggressive sound of almost holding a pick. It will give that same attack on the strings, and he also grabs underneath with the right hand the high E string and the B string, and what he's doing is grabbing the string, pulling it away from the guitar, and then letting go. So you're going to get a really aggressive sound. Just imagine a really tall elastic band and just pulling it really far away and letting go. You get all of that potential energy then slapping back onto the fretboard. In this case, it's just slapping back, hitting the fretboard, but giving you that percussive sound. So he's still got all of these dynamic options that he can totally change on the fly, even though he's just playing with his hand. And just getting into the subtlety with which Jeff plays, I mentioned right at the beginning about the dynamics, but also the amount of technique and the different techniques that he employs. When I talk about Jeff on this channel, and of course the Yardbirds comes up when I'm talking about Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, for me, the thing about Jeff and his playing is that if you imagine a graph from when he first started to play and you've got a horizontal line, his playing, the techniques that he's worked on, that line has just gone sky high with the different effects that he gets to sound unique by using a variety of different techniques. And this is the point, sounding unique, because that is what everyone's aiming for on the guitar. And Jeff Beck is absolutely one of the most unique sounding guitarists you're probably ever going to hear. And I use the word subtlety because of the way that Jeff has total control of his volume on the guitar, to the point where you don't see it because it's hidden underneath his hand. And even on really quiet passages, he'll just smoothly blend in and bleed in that volume before every note. And it is so subtle, but it gives it that unique sound. And if you're watching him play, you might not even see it because it's such an efficient movement that he's got it down to. Sometimes you'll see a player's whole hand going up and down so you can see exactly what they're doing. Whereas Jeff is so precise with the way that he plays. He's got such control, it will fly under the radar, and all we do is get to enjoy the final product of all of that technique and action. And it's such a unique blend of techniques once you start fading in that volume and also having control of that whammy bar to the degree that Jeff does. Once you start combining those together, you're always going to get a unique sound. Now, the key is that even if you've got a unique sound, it doesn't make it good. It has to be musical. It has to be full of expression. It has to connect with an audience, and Jeff can absolutely do that. He can actually make something musical, because a lot of people are trying to be unique but don't necessarily make something that sounds good. And that control of the whammy bar is the foundation of the sound that we get with Jeff, but it's then the other techniques that he adds to it. And for example, in this, of course, we've got tapping. And I don't think there's any technique on the guitar that Jeff hasn't got down just in case he needs it or he wants it for a particular expression within a composition. But being able to go to a semitone, go to a tone, and even raise up a tone as well, like we have here, the way that Jeff is fretting a note, and it sounds like he's doing a bend, but he's just lifting up with that whammy bar, so using it in the opposite direction to increase the tension on the string to get that effect of a bend. And Jeff playing his Fender Strat here, and it looks like he's on that middle pickup, which is sometimes overlooked. You might get some players who go straight into that bridge pickup and then never change it all night, and you might get a few that then go to the neck pickup. But Jeff, obviously one of those guys that makes total use of every option he's got tonally on his guitar, and controlling the sound at source so that he's not relying on going through 20 or 30 pedals. He just knows what sound he wants in his hands and he will adjust it. And I love the story about Jeff when he was listening to the radio. He was age 6 and he heard Les Paul play, and he asked his mum, "What is that?" And she said, "It's electric guitar, it's all tricks." And then he said, "That's for me." And then he went on to build his own, or attempt to build his own guitars, sticking cigarette boxes together and taking a fence post and getting some line from a model aeroplane and putting that on there and painting on the frets. And even in his teenage years, he was still borrowing guitars and still trying to make his own guitar. And then he tried to copy the measurements from a bass guitar, because I'm assuming that his first attempts weren't that successful. But of course, nowadays he gets the real thing. Just a practical point about where Jeff has his whammy bar, because I've said in other videos about having that horizontal position so that the whammy bar is always there when you want it. Sometimes you'll find that if you do have a whammy bar that just doesn't want to sit in the right place, it can dangle down. And that would be an absolute nightmare if Jeff is trying to find that whammy bar, because he uses it all the time, that it is absolutely fixed in there. He wouldn't want it just dangling. It's going to be at a very precise angle so that he always gets it within a millisecond when he wants to do things like those little dips before doing a 4 or 5 or 6 note run. Let's get back into it. And there we have it. I just want to point out a few things. When I started the video playing again, have a little look for the way that Jeff controls the whole band, because he hits a really cool harmonic with the whammy bar as well, and then he doesn't play anything. And that is the indication to bring it back down again after getting to the top of the mountain. And just one of those musical cues that is so subtle, but everybody absolutely gets it because they're all on the same page. And who noticed that quick change to the neck pickup as well? Like I said, really exploring all the tones that he's got at his disposal. And then by the end, we've gone all the way to that bridge pickup position. Again, it's a blink and you miss it, because he is so efficient with that right hand for making these really subtle changes. And all of these changes, when you add them up, it really does result in a big effect. But it's having the ability to put all of these together. For me, the reason that there aren't a million Jeff Becks in the world is because of the detail with which Jeff has worked at these techniques, but also the way that he daisy chains them together for the overall sound at the end, because those techniques can go wrong at any point. Anywhere along that chain, if you mess it up, the ultimate sound isn't going to work. So say, for example, you're trying to work on a run, you're trying to play that run by fading in the volume, but you also want to do a little dip before each note, and you've got to make sure that your left hand can do it in the first place, so you're getting correct fretting positions. You're adding so many things up at once that if you don't quite fade in enough, you're not going to hear the notes. So there are so many things that can go wrong, but like I mentioned, it's so subtle, and Jeff makes it look so easy that you don't realize. And then, like I say, with all of the players, and for anybody who does play guitar, once you've got all of these techniques and you can fade it in and you can do a little dip before you get to your notes and you've got the run worked out, you now have to apply dynamics to that. And that is the final stage of mastery, of having those techniques. So now you can express with the notes and with the techniques that you're using. Probably one of the most, if not the most, dynamic player you can see and you can hear because of the way that he takes it from that tiny place of that really soft pick with the thumb, just with a single fretted note, and then can take it all the way to the top of the mountain and melt your face if he wants to, because like I said, he's got so many techniques in his arsenal that he can literally take you anywhere. Certainly one of the standalone guitarists in terms of, as soon as he throws a little line together, you know straight away it's him playing, which is such a rare thing for guitarists all over the world. But thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep the suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!